Hello and welcome to another Monday night stream. Just making sure it's all set up. Here we go. Oh yeah. Yeah, okay, hold on. Always have to test it first to make sure it's alright. Hello Krogan. Always good to see you. Hope you're doing well. History Finn, hello and welcome. So this week I'll be doing some director's commentary on chapter 27 and 28. It's been a while since I've done one of those. It helps that, I've released a couple of chapters since then as well. I've tried to do two. When I do director's commentary, I like to do 2 chapters in a row because they're fairly short. So combining 2 makes for a longer stream. But I'll give people a bit of a chance to join us before we get started. Okay. I hope everyone is doing okay. I'll wait. What are your thoughts on the destruction of Alderaan? Don't think it quite had the intended effect that Tarkin wanted. Obviously he wanted to show the galaxy that the Death Star exists and they should all lay down and submit to Imperial rule, but I think it had the opposite effect and encouraged planets to rebel because they didn't want to live under those conditions. Jury, hello, welcome. Hope you're doing well. I've been working on chapter 30. Although I don't have all the recordings necessary to complete that one yet, so I'm looking at the last 2 chapters as well and seeing what I can work on there. Joe, greetings and salutations back at you. I'll wait until 10 past and then we'll get started on the commentary for chapter 27. Which, as you can see, I've already got loaded up and ready to go. Oh, I'm glad you're doing well. It's always good to see you here. Give a few more minutes and we'll see what happens. When it's a commentary stream, I like to give people a chance to join us before I get started. Fentai. Hello, welcome. So this scene that's posted on the opening shot for 27. I had a lot of fun coming up with this as an idea, which I'll talk about when I get started with the actual commentary. But it was one of those things that when the idea came to me, it just had to be done that way. Dooku's voice, I've been looking forward to this. Very nice. That's not a very good Dooku. I don't think I can do a good Dooku impression. I don't sound like Christopher Lee. Kind of wish I did though. He had an excellent voice. Yeah, I do have a lot of things to say about this particular chapter, and 28 as well. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to it. Give it another 2 minutes, and then we'll get started. Usually what happens when I do commentaries, I'm just about to press play, and then a really in-depth discussion breaks out in the chat. And then I want to respond to that instead of talking about the chapters. Okay, I'll do it. What does the balance of the Force mean to you? You mean the prophecy? See, we've got to the 10-minute mark, and now I'm thinking about that instead of pressing play. Okay. So in theory, balance would be... Once the Jedi have been wiped out, the Yoda and Obi-Wan's left. So there's two of them, and there's the two Sith, the Emperor and Darth Vader. And then in A New Hope, Obi-Wan dies as Luke becomes aware of his connection to the Force. So it's Luke and Yoda are the two. And then Yoda dies, so it's just Luke. But then Vader turns and destroys the Emperor, which changes things. See, I don't know. It's one of those things that prophecy can be interpreted many different ways. What do you think it means? Because I know that they tried to say that balance means destroying the Emperor so there's no more Sith, but then that's not balance because the Sith are gone, so there's no dark side. Did you watch the trailer for the final season of Bad Batch? Do you think you'll be watching? Yes to both of those. I saw the trailer not long after it was released. And I've watched season 1 and 2, so I will continue to see where it goes. I'm quite intrigued about the whole Mount Tantis storyline for obvious reasons. And I really think that the animation, the improvements they've made to the animation from the final season of Clone Wars to now, everything looks more detailed. They've got more. They just put so much more into it that it's very inspiring as a fellow animator. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. One could propose that true balance would be that nobody ever uses it, because if the balance is relevant for the number of users on each side, which would bring balance in equals. I suppose that's true too. No Jedi, no Sith, no one's using it. It's one of those things that it's never really going to be truly answered, no matter how much they try, because it can be interpreted in so many different ways. Okay, let me just have a quick drink of water, and then we'll get started. Okay, let me just make sure. Yep, you should be able to hear the sound when I press play. If you can't, if it's too loud or too quiet, please let me know in the chat, and I will adjust the volume accordingly. See what you will, the Force influences the plot in Star Wars, so uses doing stuff it might try to bend the rules, like making it down to abstract over. Could be. Yeah, let's get started. So, this is obviously a recreation of the Imperial fleet from The Empire Strikes Back. Because in the book it describes the Imperial fleet looking very impressive, and then this piece of junk freighter in the middle of it as a joke. And I thought, that's how you do it. Have the freighter as the piece of junk in the middle of that. So that's my thinking behind it. And here, of course, we have Thrawn. Captain Pillion has a new hat model at this point. It's a bit more detailed than the one that he had before. There's always some issues with the other one as well. It was glitching quite a bit. So this new one has no glitches, and it just looks so much better. Are we meant to hear the dialogue? It's very faint. I can turn up a little bit. I just didn't want to. I didn't want it to be hard to hear me over the video, because you can watch this by itself on the channel. Perfect. Okay, that's good. I always have fun with doing the bridge scenes, especially doing the motion capture on the bridge. Because obviously I'm doing the motion capture in my living room, so imagining that's the Star Destroyer bridge, it's quite fun. It looks awesome. Why, thank you. That Thrawn design looks so good. Mine reminds me of one of my law teachers, minus the blue. Yeah, I'd be concerned if one of your law teachers actually was blue. He is based on the way Thrawn appeared in the very old game TIE Fighter. Though he's not an exact duplicate of that, it's just that was the main inspiration. And I looked at some other depictions of Thrawn as well, so it's kind of a mix of them plus a bit of my own twist on him. So I'm glad you like him. Right, now we're back to Coruscant.
You've got to be kidding. Escort duty?
What's the big deal?
Not the biggest scene here,
You do escort all the time.
We escort people.
but it's always nice to do something on Coruscant because it doesn't appear as much in the book as you think it's going to.
Got people or a breakdown reactor aboard.
We're going to be a long time away from Coruscant with this.
I'd look on that as a plus if I were you, Commander. Something here's coming to a head. Counselor Fairlia.
I feel like the blue in his hair is identical to that.
Maybe a little vacation away from Coruscant isn't such a bad idea.
It's been a long time since I watched that film. I'll have to look it up afterwards. You got Rogue Squadron launching. So yeah, that was it for chapter 27. It's one of those chapters where it's kind of connecting what's just happened with what's about to happen, but nothing big happens in itself, but still an important part of the story. And when I released it, I released this with 4 episodes over a 4-week period. This was actually the first one I finished out of them, so it's the last one to be released in that series, but the first one I actually finished. Yeah, I had fun with it and put some little Easter eggs in, which is of course always fun to do. Alright, so we're going to move on to there we go. Just get it back to get it to 0. Move on to chapter 28. Glad to see you're still at it. Oh, of course. I've been working on chapter 30, though that's not what I'm doing on stream this evening. So, good morning, and good morning back at you. So yeah, chapter 28 takes us back to Merca, and we've got this landscape shot of the forest. One of the things I've been enjoying about I enjoyed about the Merca story, because that was kind of it. Because it takes place over several days, showing the progress of daytime, morning, evening, night, and obviously there's very different lighting situations for those times of day, so it gave me a lot to experiment with and learn about. So I'm going to get started I'm going to press play on this one, and here we go. Again, let me know if the volume needs adjusting. So this one, I modified R2's dome, so he's a lot more reflective than he used to be. And the other good thing about this one, I know it's a very... it's meant to be a little bit quiet, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to hear me talking. The other thing I did in this is I figured out how to make fabric and hair move. It's a bit subtle here on Mara's head, but if you look closely, her hair moves when she does. Ever since switching to Omniverse, that's not been an option, so it's nice to figure it out and get it back. Bloodbuzz, long live the Empire, and thank you so much for the super chat. Super chat support is always welcome and appreciated, so thank you very much.
Not quite. There's still that face of yours.
I don't think R2's got any.
I did enjoy the way this moment played out
Something else in mind.
with these leaves.
Now, let's see if that works.
What exactly is it supposed to? Ah!
Perfect.
I had fun doing that, and the way she just kind of sticks her nose up in the air, very pleased with herself. And there's a little bit more to it in the book, but there comes a point where it just drags on too much, so you have to play with it a little bit. Now, of course, we got the speeder bikes. I had fun doing that as well.
Boy, am I glad you showed up. I'm about walked off my feet.
Identify yourself.
Name's Jade. Got
So-
a gift here for Talon Card.
The Scout Trooper is voiced by one of my friends.
You'll come with us.
His name's Josh, and he has a Scout Trooper costume. So when he recorded this dialogue, he actually used his real helmet with the voice changing microphone in it to get the proper effect. Curious how you made that first person perspective for the land speeder. I had a
Male says his name is Jade. Works
I had a
as
camera
pilot,
just
claims
moved
female
through the
is
forest
female.
very quickly.
Was his prisoner. What's your name, thief?
Sunny Kifu. And I'm not a thief. Card owes me.
Love the dedication.
More than I had coming.
Yeah, it was his idea.
Wait a minute. Me too?
And I thought, yeah, let's go with it. And I think it works really well.
What's in the Empire happened to you?
Ran into some kind of bush while chasing her. Itches like blazes.
How very inconvenient for you. We have a medic back at HQ. Commander, let's go.
Getting these sound effects for the stormtroopers marching was a pain. There's so many moving that it's hard to get it synced up just right.
What do you want?
Name's Chin. We caught this rat snooping around, maybe looking through your prisoners there.
This particular scene, despite a lot of the stormtroopers just standing around, is really challenging because
If you turn up these work,
there are so many of them.
Decent of you. Can we have our weapons
It
back?
slowed everything down
you can pick them up
to a cruel, which made animating the scene an interesting experience.
Well, together again, huh?
Wouldn't miss it.
Even though there's some low quality ones further at the back.
Probably don't
Lower-
want to miss the party.
Low poly models.
Shame we weren't invited.
Real shame.
And then of course you've got Aves and Lando setting their ambush. There we go. Chapter 28. That one took a lot longer to animate than I expected, but yeah, it's because of all those stormtroopers. Yeah, it's just very demanding on my system. But of course got through it. And obviously it's been released back in December, just in time for Christmas. Love the work so far. Why, thank you very much. Work is of course continuing. Working mainly on chapter 30. But 31 and 32. Well, I haven't started on 32 just yet, but obviously 31 is quite a big one. And then that'll be it for the book, which gives me a very strange feeling every time I think about it, because it's not something I ever expected to do. When I got started, I thought people would lose interest after the first few chapters, but you guys proved me wrong. And here we are, near the end of it. Silly question, are you going to do all 3 books? It's one of those things I'd like to do, but at the moment I'm still concentrating on finishing Heir to the Empire. 31 is a really big chapter. It's going to require a lot of work, but it's going to be worth it with what I've got planned. So I haven't really thought too much about Dark Force Rising yet, although it is a question that, as we get closer to the end, I know it's come up a lot, and I know it's going to come up even more the closer we get to that final chapter. So at some point I'll start figuring it out. Probably after I finish 31, simply because that's a huge amount of work in that one. Yeah. Well, that's the commentary for. I'm not trying to rush. Just curious. I just finished the trilogy. Had been watching videos as I went through to the Empire. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching and reading the book at the same time. Obviously, reading the book is a lot faster than waiting for me to finish it. Geek Squadron, thank you so much. As always, you are very kind with your support for the series, so I do appreciate it. Never forget your first super chat. I never forget that super chat where you turned up and told your story about meeting Timothy Zahn. I have to admit, I did screenshot that conversation and saved it because it was such a huge moment. So it had to be saved. Loved it. Your video helped give me faces to put to names. Well, I'm glad that helped. Of course, with Dark Force Rising, there are even more characters that get introduced. Looking forward to making them at some point. That'll be fun. Yeah. The one downside about doing commentary tracks, commentary episodes, or like commentary streams, I should say, is I tend to get through it very quickly. I don't necessarily want to do chapter 29 as a commentary because I like to do 29 and 30 once 30 is finished. I can't wait to see him once you finish the whole book. You should think about presenting him the Blu-ray of the finished film. It would be nice to do something like that. He would have to come over here. I had hoped that he would come to Celebration last year, but that didn't really work out. You should be the one to do that. Yeah, well, legally I can't sell the Blu-ray or DVD, so no one else would actually have a copy to give him. But yeah, it would be nice to do that. I realise he probably can't acknowledge it. Maybe I'll have to give it to his wife or something instead. Especially because you got the faces really good. Why, thank you. I did my best with the faces. Not sell, he loves gifts. Oh, I know, I wouldn't sell it to him, that would be wrong. But what I meant was, no one else could give it to him because they wouldn't be able to buy it to give it to him. That's the point I was making. So the only way he could get a copy on Blu-ray was if I gave it to him, because that's the only way it would exist. Yeah, let's go back to the faces. With the characters from the books, I looked at the comic book adaptations and found out some of them have live action pictures for. I'm not talking about the Ahsoka Thrawn, because obviously that came long after I got started with this, but they did some photos of some of the expanded universe characters for a card game about 20 years ago. So I looked at them. I looked at cosplayers, especially cosplayers I know who do the characters. I looked at artwork for the various games that have been released, both video games and board games. There was a, what's it called? I think it's the Living card game or something like that. That Fantasy Flight put out a while back. It's no longer, it doesn't exist anymore, sadly. But they drew a lot of content from the expanded universe. So I looked at some of the pictures of the cards for inspiration there as well. So I drew upon those as for inspiration and kind of put my own twist on things. I bought a card from Michael Stackpole that has him as Carnhorn, Zana's card, and Long of the Gallows Place. I have those cards as well. I didn't buy them from Michael Stackpole. I was lucky enough to actually get them with the game. They're stashed away safely. I need to get that game out and play it, figure out how to play it at some point. I just bought it because I liked the cards. I didn't really have anyone to play it with, but now I do. Maybe I should do something about that. Which characters did you have the least reference material for? Okay, so there's two characters I'm going to mention here. The first was Ghent. He appears in the comic book adaptation of the Thrawn trilogy, and he was in Star Wars Galaxies. Obviously, I couldn't play. I know there's a fan run server, but I couldn't really look into that for just to find him. But I just find a screenshot of him, and then in the graphic novel adaptation, he's in a few panels. That's his only visual appearance, with the blue hair, and he's got some symbols on his forehead. In the book, it doesn't describe him having blue hair or the symbols on his head. So yeah, so far he's the one I've had the least amount of material for, except for another character who also is on Card's base, called Wade Warren, and he's at the dinner with all the other characters when Card's got Han and Lando visiting, and they have that meal scene. Card introduces some of his people, and Wade Warren's one of them. That line is the only time the character of Wade Warren is mentioned in the book. There's no physical description of him, and he's not in the graphic novel either. But obviously, I included the line about introducing him, and I looked him up, and apparently he was named after one of Timothy Zahn's friends as a little cameo, but that's it. So I had nothing to go on for him. So in the end, I just had him not on camera because I didn't really know what else to do with him. I just kind of implied that he's there, but you can't see him. The cards have great art. They do. I'm looking forward to there's a new card game. Star Wars Unlimited. I think that's what it's called. Coming out in March. And it's slightly cartoony, but I'm quite intrigued by it. So we'll see. And I know there's a Thrawn card in the set somewhere, so I'm going to have to buy it just for that. But yeah, I think it's the Star Wars Living card game. Or the Star Wars card game. I don't know. Star Wars the card game? There's some very impressive art in that game. And it's the same artist that did all the art for X-Wing and Armada, Imperial Assault and Legion. And those are a very talented group of artists. Kind of wish they had the art they drew for the cards on a bigger scale, just because it's very nice to look at. But there we go. Did you use the graphic novel of Heir to the Empire as a reference? I did, but I didn't find it as useful as I thought I was going to. Apart from things like Ghent. Just have a quick drink of water. Which I'm now out of, so I'll have to get a refill after I finish. So, there are some interesting artistic choices in the graphic novel, which I'm assuming are something to do with the way comics were drawn around the time that it was produced. For example, we know that the planet Wayland is a big forest planet, and yet when we see it in Heir to the Empire, the graphic novel, it's all orange. There's no trees. It looks like a very rocky desert planet. So I didn't really find that particularly helpful. For some reason Luke's lightsaber is blue in it. I don't know what happened there. It's the same with Merca in it as well. You see Hilliard City and it looks like it would be on Tatooine. But that said, there are some really good moments in the graphic novel that's very helpful. So I looked at it and I drew inspiration from it where I could, but it, and yeah, I was very lucky with my copy. I was at DragonCon, one of the few times I was lucky enough to go. And I went to the dealer's room and they had this huge dealer's stand selling comics and graphic novels. And they had the hardcover omnibus edition of Heir to the Empire. And it had a paper cover. Plastic papery cover, like hardback books do. And it was torn. So they decided to reduce it to $5. I don't remember what the normal price for it was, but it definitely wasn't $5. So I grabbed it and I thought, well, the cover's torn, but it's not a bad tear. I mean, you can see it when you look at it, but it doesn't ruin the book. And it's just the paper cover bit. The rest of the book is fine. So I thought, oh, I'm going to take this, take it home. So I bought it, and I was very pleased with myself for that discovery. And I walked out of the dealer's room, that's stall, and round the corner, and at another stall, they were selling books, and there was Timothy Zahn, and he was doing a book signing with a queue of 2 people. So of course I immediately joined the end of the queue of that, with the newly purchased graphic novel. I was wearing a Star Trek uniform, because I do like Star Trek as well. It was a original series Captain's Gold uniform with a tribble on my shoulder, which I'd also bought there at DragonCon. And I got to the front of the queue and we started talking about Star Trek, and he flicked through the pages and he pointed out a page where the artist had put in as a joke Kirk, Spock and McCoy. Now I cannot remember offhand what page that is, so you'll have to look through it yourselves. So we talked about that and he signed it, and of course because he didn't have a big queue I got to spend quite a while talking to him. Now sadly this is long before I was doing this adaptation of Heir to the Empire, so I didn't obviously couldn't talk to him about it. But it is a really good memory of being lucky with that find of the book, and then just finding him a moment or two later. Yeah, so I'd like to go back to that at some point, but it's so expensive and so hard to get to now. But yeah, that's how I got the graphic novel. I read it for the first time. And now it sits on my shelf over there. Behind me. Alright. That's the great thing about talking to him, is that he's a fan too. He is, and you can tell when he puts references to other things, he sneaks them in. What was it? He talked about holodrama called Battle Sun Galaxy or something like that, and it was obviously meant to be a reference to Battlestar Galactica, and it was around the time that the reboot Battlestar Galactica was running, so you could tell that he was wanted to put a reference into about the show because he obviously enjoyed watching it. Yeah, I really enjoyed having that long chat with him, and I didn't feel like I was keeping anyone waiting behind me, because I think he just done it on a whim. It wasn't meant to be part of the con schedule. Maybe he's just friends with the dealer or something and decides that's a good way to spend an hour at the convention. Because that's not what I didn't find him doing a signing or anywhere on the con schedule, so I don't think many people knew that he was doing it. So if you're going to meet a guest at the convention and they've got a massive queue, it feels really awkward having a long chat with them, even if they want to have that long chat. So yeah, when there wasn't really anyone behind me, it was a much more relaxed experience. I did he did a panel that evening with some of the other Star Wars authors, and I was still wearing the outfit, the Star Trek uniform, so I think he must have spotted me in the crowd because I was quite near the front, and he again told the story about the cameo of Kirk, Spock and McCoy in the comic. I can't remember what led to that, I just remember him looking at me and telling the story again. Yeah, good times meeting him. I hope he comes over to the UK at some point. I need to go and look for that now. Yeah, I kind of need to do that as well. I think it was in Dark Force Rising, but I can't. Don't hold me to that. Because obviously in the hardback, they're all in one book, so yeah, I'm gonna I'm gonna have to look through it as well to see if I can spot them. Well, I think that's going to be it for the stream tonight. I did the commentary for the 2 chapters. Work on chapter 30 and onwards is continuing. Yeah. So I think I will call it a night there. Of course, big thank you to Bloodbuzz Ohio and to Geek Squadron for your super chat support. As always, it's greatly appreciated. Geek Squadron, I hope you find Kirk, Spock and McCoy. What I need to do is find the page in it and then talk about it next time. So yeah, may the Thrawn be with you. Take care and see you all next time. Thank you for coming and have a good evening. Goodbye.